Tell me if this sounds familiar. You get a new project and then you spend hours eyeballing and tweaking the designs and page layouts until they look perfect. Every project feels different, and you have no idea how long the design part will take you. Not only is that super inefficient and hard to delegate, it's also costing you so much more than time and money. And that's where Web Designer Anthology comes in. It's a design methodology inside of a membership that gives you access to repeatable design systems that give you back your time. Think conversion structured website templates, homepage and sales page formulas, strategic design assets, and an AI assistant trained to quickly turn your clients' content into conversion centered designs. Web Designer Anthology is not a template shop. It's a membership that gives you access to design assets backed by strategy, made by an enterprise-level UX designer who knows that high-performing designers don't start from scratch or rely on creative inspiration. They rely on design systems. So instead of hoping for inspiration to come at the right time or reinventing your process on every project, Web Designer Anthology gives you access to systems-backed design assets that empower you to work faster, make more, and actually be able to scale. So just go to webdesigneranthology.com/podcast to learn more. And profitable web designer listeners get your first month free with code Shannon. That's webdesigneranthology.com/podcast and use code Shannon to get your first month free. Welcome to the Profitable Web Designer Podcast, the place where women web designers come to raise their prices, book higher paying projects, and run their web design businesses without overwhelm and burnout. I'm your host, Shannon Mattern, pricing strategist and founder of the Web Designer Academy, where you're just one proposal away from the money you truly deserve to be making. And I'm here to help you build a web design business that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. So let's go ahead and dive into this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Profitable Web Designer. And today I am joined by Hannah Cole. Hannah is an artist, a tax expert, and author of Taxes for Humans and founder of Sunlight Tax. And she specializes in educating entrepreneurs and creative professionals in taxes and financial empowerment. So Hannah, welcome to The Profitable Web Designer.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I'm so happy to be here.
So I just did the standard bio intro, but I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit more about your background. So like artist to tax professional or both and isn't a combination that we often see. So tell me about your background and your origin story and how you got here.
Sure. Yeah. I'm kind of a weirdo, but I basically when I got out of art school, I was feeling really good about myself. I'd gotten a big grant, I had residencies, I had a gallery courting me, and I was feeling good. And I remember feeling like I'm starting my life as a professional. And I went and sat down with my dad's accountant, and the first words out of his mouth were, "When are you going to get a real job?" It put me on my back foot. And I was like, oh, wait, what? I'm not like a legitimate business to this person. And it was an awful shaming experience that kept getting compounded by other accountants that I had experiences with over time. So that was the thing that lodged in my head. But then even a couple years later, when I had a baby and got a day job at a design and branding interactive design agency in New York City, I actually lost my job because of my boss's allergy to his numbers. It was a really fantastic branding agency. I loved working there. He hired really talented designers. I owe so much of my branding knowledge to that experience and love the design world. But just like a lot of people in creative fields, when he sat down with accounting people or financial professionals, they would often treat him like he's some kind of alien weirdo. And so over time, that can start to seep in and give you this mindset like, oh, that stuff isn't for me. So despite the fact he's running this big, fancy New York City branding agency, he didn't have real bookkeeping set up. And so he would just get nervous about money, but he didn't actually know what his numbers were. He didn't know if he was even profitable. And so eventually what happened, he managed that the way a lot of people do who resist their numbers. He'd go try to get more work, right? So he'd get a new contract, get a huge check in the door, and then have to turn around and pay all these expensive design contractors. Y'all know, you know what that's like. And a lot of that money would just walk back out the door again. And he didn't know if he was actually making a profit from each job. And so when he finally got his bookkeeping together within the week, each one of us who worked there were sat down in the office and let go because he realized he was hemorrhaging money. So I have felt in a very profoundly, like, earth-shaking way how much power you can lose overnight if you don't have a handle on your numbers. But I also think that creative work is what connects the world. It's what builds empathy and trust. It is the work that I have dedicated my life to, and I want to serve other people dedicating their life to that. And I think we need good numbers information so these disasters don't happen to us. So that is why I went back to school to study accounting. It's basically just to try and bring it back, to create a space where people who are creative can feel valued for the amazing work they do and get good, clear, accessible information about their numbers.
You said something at the beginning of your story when the accountant that you sat down with said, "When are you going to get a real job?" And I think that there are so many of our people listening to this. And we just had this conversation inside of our program community this week about like certain things being said to people over time that make them feel like somehow they're not legit. That because they are freelancers or running their own business or they are a sole proprietor or whatever it is, that somewhere along the way they've internalized this thing that because I don't have XYZ or I don't look like this other business or because of whatever, I'm not legit. And therefore, it really holds them back in a lot of ways from charging profitably and sustainably, really stepping into like that leadership role in their business instead of like hanging back and being the order taker and being like, oh, let me distance myself some of this responsibility because I'm not legit. So when you said that, it really just, I know so many of our listeners have had someone somewhere along the way say something to minimize them and their experience, especially when it comes to their finances and numbers and business structure and taxes and all of those things. So thank you for like saying that. I'm so sorry you went through that.
You know, pain is a teacher. Pain is a great teacher. One of my beliefs is don't waste it. If you're going to go through awful pain, at least make it useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's kind of like
a business coach tell me before, like, there's profit in the pain. Like, if you're willing to like learn the lessons and not try to just, oh, let me avoid that at all costs, like there is something to grow from here, even though I don't love that it had to hurt for me to experience this.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like empathy is maybe my deepest core value. It's like why I support the creative work of other people, because I think creative work is empathy building. And I have been through really horrifying pain because of not having the tax information I needed, my boss not knowing his numbers. And so I really know what it feels like to feel humiliated in front of an accountant. Like that pain is useful in empathizing with the people who come into my orbit. I think it's really helpful to know that you're working with somebody who's like, she's been there. She's not there to shame me and to question my career choice. She's there as a woman who's been talked down to about money and who is a creative person who's been talked down to about money. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love that you said creative work is empathy building. Can you tell me more about that and your perspective on that?
Yeah. I mean, actually, that is my definition of design. Design is empathy. And I mean that from the tiniest unit of design all the way to architecture, urban planning, all of it. All design is empathy, because to be the best designer, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person you're designing for. You have to really empathize with what their pain is, right? Truly. Like, and understand what they're looking for and what they react to and make them feel better, make them know how to navigate. My father is an architect, so like that can be the way you feel in a space. I'll give you an example. So as an artist, I'm in galleries a lot. So if you go into the Chelsea galleries in New York, which are these huge, echoey, caverny, white space galleries, they're so echoey that everybody can hear every word you say when you're in there. And the gallerists are sitting way behind a big desk. And so when you walk in there, one, you feel tiny. Everyone can hear what you say. So you feel immediately super self-conscious. You're distanced physically from the people running the gallery. So you do not feel like you should ask questions. You do not feel like you should engage with your friend talking about what you think of the work because you'll be overheard. And then I noticed when a lot of galleries moved to like the Lower East Side in Chinatown, which has sort of just because of the way New York City is, those are smaller spaces and they're more intimate. It actually changed the way people interact in those spaces. You're closer to the gallerist. You can't help. You're so close as you walk in the door that you have to acknowledge each other. So it forces this little bit of like, hey, what's up? How's your day? And like, it just creates a more humane experience. And I'm going to go break the fourth wall and say that I was gushing about you before we hit record because I feel that way looking at your work on your website. I was like, my heart rate came down. Like I felt like good web design can make you feel less confused, more clear. You've already done the work of identifying what my problem is. Like you know me better than I know myself. That is empathy. So yeah, no, I believe that to my core.
So tell me how you bring that to the work you do with finances and numbers, because I can't imagine that if you're like, oh, this is my belief, design is empathy. I can imagine like taxes for humans, like you must approach how you work with people financially in that same empathetic way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like job number one is to just establish you belong here.
Yeah.
That's my always. I mean, I just want people to feel seen because people have access to accountants. People can go look on the IRS website and read stuff, right? Like you can go read the whole tax code if you want to. The problem is you kind of feel like it's not for you or there's gatekeepers. And so I feel like a big old welcome in the door is the first step. So that's really true. And also just making it clear like I come from a creative culture. I am of and for creative people. I think that's establishing that like cultural common ground. I think that's important. And then beyond that, also just like level setting that we don't have a tax education in the US. We should all learn this in high school, but we don't. And so nobody knows this. And I think a lot of creative people, because we're not in those like well-resourced STEM fields, a lot of creative people are bringing, especially like a lot of my clients, and I think a lot of yours are women or female identified.
Yep.
And people talk to female children, their daughters, differently than they talk to their sons. There's like stats that show that we say to boys, take risks, grow your wealth. And to girls, we say, save your money, be careful. And like that, little meta messages like that are going to affect your money mindset going all the way up. So we're already like bringing a huge cultural baggage as we walk in the door. So I like to just be clear. Hey, you know what? You're thinking that the fact that you don't know tax stuff means you are broken and you are, quote, bad with money. Can we talk about a phrase I want to kill?
Yes.
But actually, nobody knows this. You are not broken. The system is broken. You're not the one who's broken. Nobody knows this thing. So let's all just be clear. You're not coming into this miles behind everybody else. I think that's key.
That's so beautiful. And I hear from so many of the women in our community and our listeners that they fear that they're doing something wrong. Yet they fear getting help because of what you expressed, that they're afraid to be shamed for whatever, that they should have known better, that they should have done something differently, that they should have.
Mm-hmm.
And so they stay in this place of trying to like do it all themselves and figure it all out on their own. I might also be talking about like me from however many years ago, where I was just like, I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but every single month, I'm like, am I making decisions that are going to irreparably harm my business? Am I doing this right? I think I'm doing some things right, but like, what do I not know? And just the pressure of all of it. And then for me, that creates my fear response is fight, like you
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, where your boss at the agency was like, well, here's the solution. Just go hard and go make some more money because that'll make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
When there are so many other pieces of data and information and nuance and levers you can pull. And it's not like, oh, I'm just going to suddenly have to like shut this all down tomorrow because. So
Yeah.
I say all of that to say it's normal what you're like, just like you had said to everybody listening. It's like, it's normal if you don't know this stuff. It's normal if you feel so much pressure around doing it right, whatever that means. And it doesn't have to be all on you. So
So true.
you went back to school for accounting and then because of this experience really compelled you. How did you start like when you decided I'm going to do this? How did you get your first clients? What did that look like for you? And what are some of your favorite stories of how you've helped people?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know how it was going to go. I mean, I thought where I am now and where I started are pretty different. I thought I was just going to have a little tax prep practice. I would do taxes for creative people. And that is how I started. And that was my vision as I went to school for accounting. But the thing about it is like when I went to school for accounting, I was like, wait a minute. There's so much magic in this that the people I'm in community with are not aware of. Like a lot of people that I know did not learn. They might vaguely know like you should put money in an IRA. IRA, just for those uninitiated, stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement, and it is just a thing that gives you a tax break. It's a vehicle that you put money into and then put it in investments to help you save a nest egg. That's what it is. So I was like, you might vaguely know what an IRA is and that you're supposed to put money in it every year. But most people have never seen the math of just how much money that will build for you if you really are consistent with it. A lot of women I know specifically are really scared of investing. And that is actually key to building a nest egg. And I just was like, and even just like little tricks in bookkeeping that can make your taxes a lot easier. And so it was just like, there is so much more than just tax prep. And the funny thing about running a tax prep business is that a lot of people, especially in early stages in business, like before they have the funds to hire full-time accounting, like monthly accounting services, their only touch point with an accountant is that one tax return moment a year. If that, some of them are DIYing it with TurboTax, which is not a judgment. Like that is a fact. And so I think when you are just starting out, that feels like that's what accounting is like doing your tax return. But actually, you get so much less for a tax return engagement than other types of accounting. Like the value of accounting is really outside of the tax return is the cattle call. That's everyone has to do it. They do accounting firms are like filter feeders on those. They just say yes to everyone. They put them all in extension and they just like ram them through as quickly as they can. And to have a profitable tax prep business, you have to basically not answer questions. You have to go fast. And so you are not educating your clients. So that's the problem. Like people who are on the early stages, they hire an accountant, they do tax prep, and they think they're going to get all these other things. They think they're going to get maybe some advising on, are there ways I could get more out of my taxes? And yes, there are. Are there things at the end of the year I could do to save more money on taxes? Yes, there are, but we're not going to talk about it during tax prep. Are there quarterly taxes? Those feel like they're going to be a big deal for me? Can I learn about them? Yeah, yes, absolutely, but not here, not during your tax appointment. So it's like all this stuff that actually is the stuff that makes you grow and that protects your business is stuff you don't get when you pay for a tax return. So the pivot that I made in Sunlight Tax was I started realizing that was the information I wanted to be getting out there at a price point that is more accessible than monthly accounting fees, which you can certainly pay. And I mean, I have friends, a friend just showed me her estimate from her accountant. She pays $1,400 per month, right? For full service accounting. Now, it's a really wonderful accountant who I know personally, and they're great. But like, just to level set about the cost of this stuff. So, what I really wanted was to create kind of like a course that has accountability built into it, but that is kind of a little bit more self-study with some like ways to kind of draw you into the material and like do accountability every quarter before quarterly tax deadlines to get you that information like tax planning, investing, using those accounts. And the big one for everyone is like making your tax systems nice and simple so that they keep working every year and you don't actually have to have a panic attack every time you file a tax return. And stay on top of your quarterly taxes, because a lot of people, the only time they ever learn about quarterly taxes is when a year too late, is when they get an enormous an enormous tax bill and a huge amount of penalties because they were supposed to be paying quarterly. And they're like, why did this happen? There was something that could have prevented this. And yes, the answer is yes. And it's called quarterly taxes. They're actually mandatory, not optional. But you need the education and how they work. And most accountants never sit down and do that. So that is something I really specialize in.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
No, I'm just like, we talked about like the magic that you discovered when you were going through and learning, and you're like, oh, this little piece and this little piece. And I just love how you came into that having had a creative career and seeing all of the places where this could really make a huge difference for people, especially women in these industries. And so, what are some little pieces of the magic that you're like, oh, and this thing, like this could be to your benefit, like these things could help you? Tell me more about the magic.
Sure. One of the best, most magical kind of concepts to get your head around is that taxes are a lot more forgiving than people realize. This is part of why I titled my book Taxes for Humans, because I think the implication is like humans are not perfect. And the tax code is actually built for humans. In other words, for people who are not perfect. And so, like, I'll just give you an example. All tax paying, even people who pay through payroll withholding, right? So if you're an employee and you get a W-2, you don't have any choice. Taxes are going to be taken out of every paycheck, which means that you are effectively, though you're not the one doing it, it's automated in the background, so you don't really have a lot of conscious engagement with it, but you're paying your taxes every 2 weeks, right? Every time you get paid. When you're self-employed, that's not happening. So you need bookkeeping and you need to pay quarterly taxes. So, but the thing is, like, even that employee is estimating, even though they're much more on top of it because they're paying every 2 weeks. So, of course, they're mostly paid up when it comes to tax time. And all your friends who like get W-2s at this time of year are like, oh, I filed already and I got my refund, right? And all the people who are self employed are like, ooh, I like to wait till the last minute because I'm really scared of what's going to happen. And I also haven't done my bookkeeping yet. Right? I mean, sound familiar? So I think what's important to recognize is the whole purpose of doing a tax return, why we do it, is that you're paying all throughout the year the taxes for that year. It's a pay as you go tax system by law. And so they force it on employees because there's a mechanism of payroll that can do it for you. But the thing about being self-employed is that there isn't that mechanism. And that's actually for a good reason. That's like when you get paid, you invoice clients for your web design work. You're the one who has to track the invoices and the money that you make. But the benefit to you is that you get to deduct things. You have business deductions, and you probably spend a lot of money on software, on programs, on coaching, on, maybe a community that you're in. These are all business deductions for you. And the privilege that you get is that you get to take all of those off your taxable income. So that's why you have to do bookkeeping. It's not to flagellate, it's not to punish you. It's to give you a huge tax break. I mean, if you just think about the margins, I don't know if you, off the top of your head, Shannon, like have a sense of good margins in a design business. I don't know. Do you?
The rule of thumb that we give people in terms of figuring out their pricing is, and it's so different for everybody, just depending on where they live and how much they're making and how much they're charging. But, we tell them like your price should be double what you want to take home so that you have money for taxes and expenses.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. If that answers your question for margin.
Yeah, I think that's great. So let's say maybe if you do that, you take Shannon's advice, you charge double what your expenses and taxes are. Maybe you're hoping there to make a 50% margin. You might find when you actually get all your expenses in is less than 50%. Maybe it's 30%. But what that means, though, is even though you made, let's put some numbers to it. So maybe you brought in $100,000 in gross income. So like invoices, total payments from clients, but you spent $70,000, right, in expenses in your business. Well, you're only paying taxes on 30% of that. You keep 30%, $30,000. You only pay tax on $30,000. So you only pay tax on your profit. In other words, like that's $70,000 that you actually earned, but that you spent and reinvested into your business. That was all tax subsidized. Like you got a big tax break on that money. And that's actually there on purpose to encourage you as a business to make investments to help your business grow. It's actually a really nurturing thing. And if you think about it, tax-free deductions are meant on purpose to help you invest in your business because, and I want to like get high up because I think that helps people realize why these things are there. Like, why does the government do that? Because it just like loves business, like, or because it's a favor or something? No, I mean, sort of, but the US government's maybe number one priority is to grow the economy. And businesses are what grow the economy. So like your web design business is a part of the economy. And your business, when it invests in itself, makes more money, right? You join a really fantastic community. You get the support you need to make better marketing decisions, to do pricing better. You're going to make more money. That's the whole point. And it's encouraged in the tax code. So it's actually really positive. But I think tax marketing tends to just sell fear, make you hate the IRS, make you feel like it's all awful because accountants want your business, right? The more fear and confusion you feel, the more you feel like you have to just hand it to them and you're never going to look. But like the more you realize, like when I invest in my money in my business, I'm looking for a return on that investment. And the point there is that I grow my profit. And of course, to the US, you also then grow your tax rate. And it's like a beneficial cycle for the US system. So,
yeah, I'm happy to pay taxes when like I know that it's because I have grown my business to the point that I'm impacting so many people. And it's just like, oh, we have the resources we need to run the business well, to pay team well, to serve our clients well. We're making a profit. And I'm going to do what I need to do to like strategically minimize my taxes, but I don't feel like it's like, oh, I have to avoid this at all costs. I see people worry about
agreed.
they worry about it so much that they like subconsciously prevent themselves from making money because they're afraid to deal with the responsibility or the rules or the regulations or this whole thing that they don't understand, that they prevent themselves from making the money and the impact and having the fulfillment that they really could have because they're afraid of it. So I
It's so
love
true.
that you are like, no, this isn't something to avoid and be scared of. Let's look at how this ecosystem really works to help everyone thrive and what's your place in it, and not have it be something punitive that you need to be afraid of or worried about or all of that.
Absolutely. And also, like, celebrate when your tax rates go up, it means you're making money. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that what you want?
Yeah. And I'm like, I want to have a big impact. And so that's just one signal of the impact that I'm having. So
Mhm.
you wrote a book called Taxes for Humans. You have a podcast all about taxes. Tell me more about the journey to getting this book written and the decision to write it and how that all came together.
Thanks. Well, I write a lot. And just for my business, I write a weekly newsletter that actually has a surprisingly large following because I just sort of I just try to connect taxes to like the life that people are living today.
Yeah.
But I give a lot of tax workshops, and I got an email in my inbox one day that said, like, cold email from an agent. And I was like, what is that? And this literary agent had been in the audience at one of my tax workshops. And at the end of my workshops, I do this kind of rallying cry about how important creative work is to the world, how it is the thing that moves the culture. And that's how you change the world,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it because I
Yeah.
don't mean it. And she wrote to me and she was like, that was so clear. That was mind blowing. You like really made me feel comfortable in a way I've never expected to in a tax workshop. And then you had this vision about creative people changing the world. She was like, this is a book. Would you want to talk? So that was a very exciting moment for me. So yeah, so I got a little nudge from the universe. But to be honest, I loved writing this book. It was so much fun. I feel like all I want to do is like get the word out there
Yeah.
and help people make more. One, feel worthy of
Mhm.
protecting their business, feel worthy of setting up these systems. Like that's actually a barrier. You
Yeah.
talked about this, Shannon. Your business is serving people and serving people well. And actually, the more money you make in it, the more well you can serve them. So it's like you growing, you taking up more financial space. Like this is a really wonderful thing. So also putting those tools, little systems, very simple systems in place to make it more automated and make it more streamlined every year. These are things that help your business stay strong. And also just to speak to this moment in our country and our world, like who doesn't want to feel strong right now? Like who
Yeah.
doesn't want to feel some protection? I think putting those protections in place is more important now than ever. So I want people like me who really felt unseen by this sort of like tax
Mhm.
and accounting world. I want us to feel seen and worthy and like do this stuff because it's there to help.
When you said, I want you to feel worthy to take up financial space, I got chills
No.
because one of the challenges that I see with the women that I work with is that they feel that when they receive money for the value that they provide, which
Hmm.
is always way more than just their time or their skill set. We talk about value based pricing around here, and it's all about the outcomes and results that your clients can create as a result of working with you, not how much time did this take me and how long have I been doing this.
Yeah.
But they have this core sense that they're harming someone by receiving money from them. That,
Mm.
like, if I receive this much money from you, now I have this much more and you have this much less. And that makes me feel like I caused you harm instead of
Yeah.
feeling like when I charge profitably and sustainably for myself, my family, my business, my employees, the impact that I want to have to give myself all of the tools that I need to do a really great job
Yep.
to care for myself and make sure, like, me, the person delivering the service, is rested and well taken care of and mentally healthy and physically healthy. I'm able to deliver for this client at the level that they deserve for the impact that they want to have with whatever we're doing together.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest shift. That's like why the Web Designer Academy exists. Sure,
Mm.
we want you to get more clients. We want you to run a business that you feel good about, but we want you to stop feeling like receiving money from your clients is harming them in some way. And when you said, I want people to feel worthy of taking up financial space, you just like put words to that whole concept. So thank you for saying that.
Thank you. I mean, I was listening to one of your recent podcast episodes where you were breaking down these different mindset barriers around money. And I was just
Mhm.
I was like thumping my desk, like, amen, amen. It's such important work. There's such an unbelievable amount of mindset work to, I think specifically, I mean, I think your audience and mine are virtually the same. And I
Yes.
think serving
Mhm.
these amazing people, there's a lot of just
Yeah.
like, yeah, that worthiness, that mindset. But also, like, could we do a little back and forth exercise here of like things that have been so worth our money and we would pay triple? I have so many examples of that in my life where I'm like, I would so gladly pay 3 times what I actually
Mhm.
paid because I got so much value out of
Yeah.
that thing. Like, and you
Yes.
can be that. And you're more
Yeah.
likely to be that when you're charging enough and you feel rested.
Mhm.
Like, you feel when you're getting a number from a client that feels almost embarrassing to you because it's high, really high, you serve so well. I think
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. And you said something else about wanting to feel like you have some sort of like control and power and that you're not at the effect of or with what's going on in our world and country today.
Uh-huh.
And you also mentioned like how you felt when you came to our website and you felt calm and you felt like the whole point of our brand was like the third place where like you're welcome, you feel seen, you're going to be just accepted for who you are. But the other brand that we had considered that we didn't go with, but it still
Mhm.
gets like a pillar in our whole ecosystem is the quiet rebellion.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
and so it has a thread, but we didn't lead with it
Mhm.
because but really what we're talking about when we're talking about women and
Mhm.
finances and money and taking up financial space and like leveraging tax law to thrive,
Yeah.
it's a quiet rebellion against everything that we're told, just like what you said at the top of the podcast about we're told to like save and be secure and like take care, like make sure we're taken care of and not take risks and not be bold and not be loud or big or take up any space.
Mhm.
So this conversation is really important to that because that's why I do what I do. Web designers just happens to be my audience and pricing and marketing happens to be the vehicle. But the reason is exactly what you said. So we're so very aligned there. And I just wanted to bring that up because it's a quiet rebellion. It's not how we're supposed to be.
I could not agree more. I just was doing some writing and I just wrote this down this morning. I was like, don't diet when you're pregnant. When you are gestating the rebellion, you need your strength, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about money here. Like, you need money. You need money so you can do more, so you can have rest, so you can reach more clients, serve better, but also take care of yourself. Like,
Yeah.
money is also the oxygen mask you put on your face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And being willing to give yourself the tools that you need
Hmm.
instead of bootstrapping and DIYing and hustling and spending your time to try to scrimp and save every penny, there are absolutely times to be scrappy, but there are times to just buy the thing that you need to do the job well. And I see this so often where people are like, how can I get the free version of this thing? Or I'm going to like spend 2 weeks moving from this system to this system because they raised their prices. I'm like, do you understand how much that is costing you in future? Like the opportunity cost of being so scrappy is so high.
Yeah.
So tell me your thoughts on that.
Oh my gosh, the opportunity cost of being scrappy. Yeah, you said it so well. And I think we're more prone. This is an audience that is more prone. And I'm including myself here. Like,
same.
We creative people, we're very capable. Creativity is literally a synonym for resourcefulness, right? And that is in part our superpower, but it can also be our kryptonite. Like, when you try to DIY everything, yes, you're capable. You probably could do it. But do you want to spend 2 years learning the tax code and figuring out all the places that you can get some advantage from it? Or do you think maybe it would actually be worth some dollars to like skip ahead and just get the info?
Yeah, especially from somebody who's not going to make you feel less than, like you should have known, minimize you, make you feel like, oh, you've been doing it wrong this whole time. You shouldn't be doing it the way that you're doing it. So you're such a breath of fresh air. Can you tell everyone how they can connect? Like, what are all of the different ways that you can support them? I know you have your podcast, your book, you have courses. Like, tell us all of the things.
All right. Lovely. I'll start at the ground level, and you're welcome to use my free things, everyone. But also, it is worth it to skip ahead.
I love it.
Chutes and ladders. It's so good to skip ahead. So I can show you on the video version, I can show you what it looks like, but I have this visual guide to tax.
So pretty.
It's a visual guide to designers' tax deductions. So you can grab that from my website. This is sort of like a translator. This is like how we as designers and creative people talk about what we spend money on in our business. And this visual 1-page printable resource shows you exactly where it goes on your tax return, just exactly how to categorize it.
Beautiful.
And the little detail-y rules about your home office and your business mileage, it's all there. So if you want that, sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. That's a really good way to just get into my ecosystem. My book, Taxes for Humans, I call it a tax guide that's as generous as you are.
It's beautiful, by the way. The cover makes me feel like delightful.
I'm so glad. Well, see, I credit the design world for that. Thank you. And then my program, Money Bootcamp, is really to get you set up with healthy systems in a day and to protect and safeguard your money and get the maximum amount out of your taxes, which is lifetime financial security is the max. That's the big max. So to get more out of your taxes. And we do quarterly accountability Q&As timed right before the quarterly tax deadlines. So even if you never watch any of the trainings in the whole thing, just coming to each quarterly accountability session will help you calculate your tax payment right there without having to pay monthly accounting fees. So it's like priced to be like 1 month of full service accounting, except it's a lifetime access program and you have all the resources in there. It's also built with a calendar that you just plug into your Google Calendar that you already have. And so it's not meant to be a huge amount of coursework that you have to do and feel guilty you haven't touched. Taxes happen every year. They're not like a one-time thing. So the way I've built it is that you just plug in the calendar and then, when it's the middle of January, you get a little nudge from the calendar. Oh, now's the time to look at issuing your 1099s to any contractors you paid. Here's the training in boot camp to the 1099s, 30-minute training, right? So it's just kind of popping up the right training at the right time of year for you every time. So That's my program, Money Bootcamp. And you can go to sunlighttax.com, and the big yellow button in the middle sends you to bootcamp. So you can check that out. But my goal really is just to serve. Like, I love our conversation, Shannon. I want women, some men too. I'm not exclusionary, but I think a lot of women have received really terrible messages about money that I would love to kick out of the room. And so I just want wonderful, ethical people doing amazing empathy building work in this world to have more power to change the world with our amazing creative work. That's my goal.
That's beautiful. So I just have one last question for you before we wrap up that I ask everyone that comes on the show. And that is, what belief about yourself did you have to change to get to where you are today?
I'm going through, frankly, a little bit of a hard moment in business right now because the world is changing so dramatically. And I think a belief that I have gotten to is I'm capable of this. It is actually a little scary and rocky out there, but I have gone through a lot of pain and I've done harder things than this. So that belief that I'm capable.
Oh, so beautiful. That resilience and that belief that, like, I can get through this. It's just beautiful. And for those of you listening, if you're feeling that too, it's like, put yourself in community with people who can hold you through that, because it's not easy and it's way harder trying to do it on your own. I've had those challenging times as well where you feel like, how am I even ever going to make it through this? And it's always been other people who have really helped carry me through, which has been beautiful. So, Hannah, it's just been so awesome to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know that you gave people like some links before, but can you just tell everybody like what's the best place to go to get all of those things that we talked about?
Sure. My website, sunlighttax.com, is the hub for everything. You can find everything I mentioned right there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
I loved our conversation, Shannon. Thank you so much.
Hey, so before you go, if you're an experienced woman web designer who's outgrown all the beginner business growth strategies and you're looking for real support to help you make the money that you really want to be making, I'd love for you to come and check out the Web Designer Academy and see how we do things differently. Just go to webdesigneracademy.com/tour and fill out the form to schedule your program tour. You'll get to sit in on one of our live group coaching calls, meet the other women inside of the program, and afterwards, I'll share options for working together in 2026. So if you're done figuring it all out on your own and you're looking for support, I can't wait to meet you. Schedule your program tour today at webdesigneracademy.com/tour. That's webdesigneracademy.com/TOUR tour.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.